This guide will walk through the process of creating a basic rota. For the purposes of this guide, we will be creating a rota for a fictional day in a shop. The shop will open at 9 and close at 5:30. In this time, we will have working a manager and 2 cashiers. These staff will all work the whole day. To create this rota, log in to Keep Me On Time with your user credentials. Navigate to the Admin Rota page. Select the day that we wish to create this rota on. Ensure that the Rota View panel is in Time Block View mode. When creating a rota, remember, time blocks are created to represent the date range of business requirements within that period. We need a new time block when one does not currently exist that matches the date range of the new requirements, or there is a time block that matches the correct date range, but the new requirements have no relationship with the existing requirements of this time block. For each time block, create all requirements and allocations required for the entire date range represented by the time block. When creating a rota, it can be helpful to think of your day chronologically and build your rota accordingly. The first requirement that the business has is a location to operate from, and this is required from 9 AM until 5:30 PM. There is currently no hierarchy that this requirement is related to, and no time block of which this can be a requirement. Therefore, a new time block without a parent must be created. All actions that can be performed without an object are located under Page Actions. Click the Add New Time Block Without Parent button. Complete all required fields, ensuring the date range start time is 9 and end time is 5:30. The date can be any date that you are creating this rota for. Complete the time block name to be Demo Day and click the Create button. We create a time block to represent the date range of requirements that our business has. Once created, we can add these individual requirements. After a time block is created, Keep Me On Time will open the Allocate Resources to Time Block panel automatically to enable you to add your requirements. The first requirement, required for the entire date range represented by this time block, Demo Day, is a location to operate from. Select Location from the Requirement Resource Type options. The system will then show you all current locations that exist. From these, select the location Shop. We now have the option to create just the requirement for the resource shop, in which case we are declaring that we require the resource shop but are not allocating the resource to the requirement. Or we can create the requirement for the resource shop and allocate the resource to this requirement. This is identical to the case of users. In the example that I require John Doe to work, I have a requirement, or I require John Doe to work and I have confirmed he will work, a requirement and an allocation. Clicking the Create Allocation and Requirement will create the requirement and allocate the resource to the requirement. The next requirement that the business has is for a manager. This is required from 9 AM till 5:30 PM. Remember that a requirement is required for the entire date range of its parent time block. There is already a time block, Demo Day, that represents the date range of this requirement, and there is a relationship between the existing time block and the new requirement. The manager will work in the location Shop, therefore this new requirement can be a child of the time block Demo Day. Click the Time Block Information panel button to see all properties and actions for a time block. Then click the Allocate Resources to Time Block button to open the Allocate Resources panel. select Groups from the Requirement Resource Type options. The system will then show you all current user types. Select Manager from the Requirement Group Type options. For this requirement, we know who will be fulfilling the requirement. The Assign Specific Resource options will show all users who are able to fulfill the requirement options. Select the desired user and click the Create Requirement and Allocation button. As previously shown, this creates the requirement and allocates the resource to the requirement. The next requirement that the business has is for 2 cashiers. These are required from 9 AM until 5:30 PM. Remember that a requirement is required for the entire date range of its parent time block. There is already a time block, Demo Day, that represents the date range of these new requirements, and there is a relationship between this existing time block and the new requirements. The cashiers will work in the location shop and be supervised by the previously created manager. Therefore, these new requirements can be added as requirements of the time block Demo Day. Click the Time Block Information panel button to see all properties and actions for a time block. Then click the Allocate Resources to Time Block button to open the Allocate Resources panel. Select Groups from the Requirement Resource Type options and select Cashier from the Requirement Group Type. We do not wish to allocate specific resources to fulfill the requirements at this stage. By creating only the requirements, any user who is in the cashier user role will be able to submit a request to fulfill the requirements, so allowing users to allocate themselves. As we wish to create 2 cashiers, enter this quantity to create multiple requirements. Then click the Create Requirements in Time Block button. If further requirements were needed for this rota, add them in the same manner as shown in this guide. Create time blocks and add your requirements to them. By building these hierarchies, you can quickly and easily create rotas for any situation.